Back in the early 2000s, World War II shooters were a dime a dozen, and with Call of Duty having returned to its roots for a short time, I think it's a good time to look at another old World War II shooter from back in the day. Brothers in Arms, Road to Hill 30. Story. Brothers in Arms is based on a true story of the 101st Airborne Division, how they were sent in behind enemy lines to disrupt supply lines, communications, clear airdrop zones for units at Les Forge, and meet up with the 82nd Airborne Division. Road to Hill 30 takes place from the first midnight invasion up to the capture and guarding of the French city Carentan. All the while, watching through Baker's eyes as he loses friends and comrades to the near-endless German forces.
They're dead. There were too many of them. God.
So there lies the core of the story, the horrors of World War II. Not from the perspective of D-Day, but from the soldiers trying to ensure that D-Day didn't go to absolute shite. For whatever that's worth. Alongside that is probably some damn good interaction between Baker's men, and depressing but all too real reactions at the loss of close friends in what would feel like a senseless loss.
Maybe they'd still be alive! Maybe I could have saved them! Maybe.
Honestly, story is simple, but the interactions really make it. Now, if only the game held up in the same way. Gameplay. Now, FPS is a genre that shouldn't be too difficult to do, especially when it's not doing anything fancy. But Road to Hill 30 adds some bonus madness on top of aiming what feels like a Looney Tunes pretzel gun half the damn time, whether while hip firing or while aiming down sights and somehow missing a perfect headshot. But it's not your duty alone to kill every Nazi German you see, because you have the role of squad leader, and as such you normally take control of 2 squads at a time, with the intent being that you have one squad offer suppression fire while you and the other squad flank the suppressed units and wipe them out. This usually still ends up with at least 1 or 2 squad members killed anyway, or wounded enough that the next squad will wipe them out regardless.
Assault!
It's not uncommon to find yourself completely alone during certain stretches of gameplay because both squads end up getting creamed by German accuracy. Thankfully, the game shows you plenty of mercy by offering to revive and fully heal your squad should you get stuck on certain checkpoints, though I feel this shot to my pride could be mitigated if there were health packs even remotely in the game. So, no way of healing yourself combined with what feels like modern day Gubisoft hitboxes make a game that is definitely not a Call of Duty substitute. So it's 50-50 in terms of gameplay and story, but what about... graphics. Road to Hill 30 was released in 2005 for PC, PS2, and the original Xbox, and it's not a hideous game, but considering what games were released at that time, it's on the low to mid tier in quality, but compared to Call of Duty 2 and Big Red 1, it's certainly the weaker World War II shooter. So it's a negative on that too, but let's look at the last major game feature. Sound design. Firstly, I didn't think the game had music. During my playthrough I couldn't hear a damn thing over the endless hail of bullets, explosives, and screams all around. The game does have a soundtrack, but it's so generic wartime tunes that I'd be hard pressed to tie back to this game. On the opposite side of the spectrum, I will say the voice work is spectacular, not just because the characters are well voiced, but because the voice actors capture the perfect emotion in each soldier after witnessing the deaths of their comrades. Baker's regret losing so many of his men speaks volumes. So, in terms of music, there's nothing unique to the game, but the voice work is top notch in my eyes. With that said, all this information now leads us to... conclusion. Road to Hill 30 is not a fun game. It tells the story well, but since it's based on a true story, then there isn't much you couldn't find off the History Channel, or hell, even Google. Music is all but non-existent with generic war tunes, but it does have stellar voice work. Honestly, it's not a game I'd spend time looking for, since if you really wanted to play a World War II shooter, you could just play COD World War II, or if you really wanted to go back to the 6th generation of gaming, I'd recommend COD 2 Big Red One, a really fun World War II shooter with a lot more content. Granted, this was a game focusing on the true story and emotions of the 101st, but that doesn't really excuse its frustrating mechanics and general lackluster gameplay. I will grant it some points in that it does have a bunch of records and info from World War II, but you could more than likely just find that through Google. So again, better off just playing COD, either the old ones or the new one. Thank you all for watching. Trying out some new method of doing these reviews with the hope of actually giving them some good or decent quality with new art and animations and whatnot, but we'll see. Once again, I thank you all for joining me, and I wish you all a wonderful night.